Why? Because if you're making drugs that go in humans, the FDA, even for experimental purposes, requires that every atom of everything must be known. That's why we have the best FDA in the world. So that's why, also why I won't take Herbalife or any of that other that's not regulated. Because every year when people try to get the FDA to regulate herbs and supplements, every year Herbalife and all those companies spend millions of dollars bribing people to not allow it to ever be regulated. So remember, prescription drugs, at least you know everything that's ever been in them, and you know that a long-term trial is going on. Even if you do take them, they will find out the answer, whether or not they're safe long-term. All right, next is defined media, and defined media is a gram molar recipe. So if I wanted 1 molar NaCl agar, NaCl, if you add up the gram molecular weights, is 37 grams. So I would put 37 grams of salt in 1 liter of agar, and I would then have a defined media. Salt, agar, 1 molar, salt, agar. So remember, defined media is media that has a recipe to the gram molecular level. Now the next one is complex media, and that is the opposite of what it sounds like. It's off the shelf. In other words, we have oatmeal agar. Guess what that is? Get some oatmeal, cook the hell out of it, boil it, boil it, boil it, boil it, strain off the solids, and pour it into an agar. Voila, oatmeal agar. Beef broth, get a cow, kill it, cook it, boil the hell out of it, strain off the bones and stuff, pour the liquid out, voila, beef broth. I love mine. This one's blood agar. Take a unit of human blood that just expired, so you can't transfuse it, but it's not lysed. Pour it into 1 liter of agar, blood agar plates, which we use a lot for like gonorrhea and other things where pathogens are. And then, my favorite, chocolate agar. Guess what it is? It's not chocolate. It looks like milk chocolate, but it's actually hemolyzed blood. 1 unit of hemolyzed blood, where the red blood cells popped open, into 1 liter of agar. And it looks like chocolate. Doesn't smell or taste like chocolate. It's hemolyzed blood. Because it looks like chocolate, we call it chocolate agar. I love it. It's true. Alright, so anyway, this is basically not much of a recipe. It's off the shelf. Like our skim milk agar. Go buy some skim milk. Pour a liter of skim milk into 4 liters of agar. Let it solidify. Define. Alright, selective agars. Agars that have some methodology of chemistry in them. For instance, EMB is a selective agar because it has bile in it which prevents gram-positives from growing. So usually a selective agar has something in it that stops something you don't want to grow. Usually it stops, it discourages more than encourages. Then you have agar where they have pH indicators or color pigments in it. And when a color change indicates a biochemical reaction is taking place, it's called differential agar. So EMB is both differential and selective because it has bile and it also has, those other things in it that make metallic green if it's heavy lactose ferment or whatever. So like McConkey's has both, so it's differential and selective. Mannitol salt is differential and selective because it has phenol red and mannitol salt. So you have a question?
You said EMT is both different
and selective.
So like something like PR...
Phenol red. The moment you say phenol red, it's differential. Now it's not selective, but it is differential. All right, finally, enrichment. I have to tell you one of my final stories before we head off to doing lab for 45 minutes or so. And that is, once upon a time in America, there was a bunch of white men Yes, those are important. White straight men, by the way. All right, so here's what happened. In the late 70s, a group of people called the American Legion had a conference in Philadelphia. The American Legion is a social organization for veterans of foreign wars. And so they had this big conference in Philadelphia, and when it was over, within the next 3 to 4 days after it was over 22 people died, mostly white men. Now, trust me, in the United States, when white men died, hell's to pay. The entire government went crazy. Remember, these are white straight men. This is very important. When 5,000 gay men died, nobody bothered. But 22 straight white men, this is serious. And this was before September 11th, so we didn't have none of these things in our minds. So, the CDC went nuts. The entire, we didn't have Fox News, thank God, because the regular news was hysterical enough. Every day they gave reports. The CDC reports nothing was found today about the unusual deaths from Philadelphia. They spent $12 million in 3 weeks trying to figure out why these 22 white men died. It was a nightmare. They did autopsies. They sent samples. By the way, they died of an atypical rapid onset pneumonia. Okay, so they did autopsies. They sent tissue samples all over the world. They sent them to electron microscopists. They said they saw nothing. They sent them to every area of the CDC, put them on every auger, everything differential selective. Nothing unusual was found. They were freaking out. So, the next thing, if you can't find anything from someone who's died, if you can't find the agent, then you do epidemiology. Anybody know about epidemiology? It's one of the most exciting things in health. Epidemiology is who, what, where, why someone died. Who died, where they died, why they died, what was their socioeconomic status, where were they, what were the symptoms, everything. That's epidemiology. So the CDC sends these officers called EIS officers, epidemiological intelligence service, which by the way is one of the best jobs you'll ever get. If you get a BS in any science, you can apply to be an EIS officer. They will train you at the CDC for a year or two, and then they'll send you all over the world and all over the United States. Every health department has an EIS officer in it, in case there is a sudden outbreak of stuff. And whenever there is something appear, EIS officers are immediately in charge. So whenever you see the CDC officers, it's EIS. After you go through a couple of years, if you do extremely well, they will even pay for your PhD or your MD or whatever. So it is a really great job of the public health service. So anyway, EIS officers were sent, and the only thing they came up with was the only people that died were people that stayed in the Mayflower Hotel. And then, with further study, they found the only people that died were those who stayed in the Mayflower Hotel that turned on the air conditioning system. So they went to the Mayflower and tore the thing apart, and they found nothing. And they were freaking out. Now, this is when, every day the hysteria gets greater on the national news. You know how they do this. They don't really do much investigative reporting. What they do is the talking heads report the same thing over and over. And people get more and more hysterical. And then they start saying, why you haven't done something? So, this is when people start writing letters. They write letters to the CDC. And some of the letters I read, I have never seen such crap. The people that are always looking for conspiracies, they wrote that corporate America was secretly, slowly poisoning Americans with perfumed tissue, that when they wiped their hemorrhoids, it leached poisons into their bloodstream that over time killed them. The conspiracy theorists, those people that see a conspiracy around every corner. Oh, but the one that really got me was 7 known communists were seen at the Mayflower Hotel. Known communists. Okay. If it had been George Bush, there would have been terrorists everywhere. Right? Anyway, that's George the Dumber. Not the smarter. He's a nice guy. All right, but anyway, what came of this was a bored person at the CDC, a technician sitting there doing these, putting these autopsy specimens on augers and getting nothing, said, why am I doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result? Remember, that's the definition of insanity? He said, so what's different about air conditioning? He sat there and pondered and pondered and pondered it, and he came up with galvanized pipe. And then he said, what's in galvanized pipe? It's not anything else. And he said, iron. So we added iron to nutrient auger, and it grew up a gram-negative rod, which they named after the disease Legionella pneumophila, Legionnaire's disease. A bacteria killed like a 3-day treatment of erythromycin will kill it. But it grows in areas where they can leach iron out of the soil or pipes, and it grows at below room temperature. Which is why, if you go up here to Children's Hospital at the transplant ward, you won't find a shower. Why? Because when your immune system is down, like old people, and remember these were old white men, your immune system is down, and you breathe a mist that contains Legionella, it will cause this atypical pneumonia. So there are no showers in a transplant ward because you can't get rid of galvanized pipe, so you have to get rid of the shower. And if you remember, most of you are not old enough to remember the early 70s, but when you went into supermarkets, they had misters over all the produce and kept it really fresh and crispy. Now, they can spray it for a temporary time, but they can't have a continuous mist, because if you breathe in cool water that has passed through a galvanized pipe, you are likely to get infected with Legionella pneumophila. And it's everywhere. It's in the dirt, all this. It's only a problem if you have, radiation or chemotherapy and your immune system is down, or you're old, or you're sick, or something like that. And it's easily treated with erythromycin. But it is now illegal to spray, to continuously mist cool water. So one of the girls in the other class said to me, "You're lying! I went to Six Flags and they mist all the time." Honey, it's 110. 95-degree water will feel cool. This is 20-degree water. We're talking about 20 centigrade. We're talking about something about 5 to 10 degrees below room temperature. Cool water is illegal to mist in public because Legionella pneumophila. And when you have to when you have to add something like a special supplement to the media to get a particular microbe to grow, it's called enriched media.
Wait, but I was at Ron's. They had that thing where it sounds like thunder and then it sprays water on the vegetables.
Right, but it's not continuous, is it?
Oh no,
Right.
it's
Just
continuous.
Yeah, it's like 20 times a day for 10 seconds or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's no continuous mist is allowed. Okay, so that takes care of chapter 6, which leaves us only 7 and 8 for the next class. Just examples of differential media and so forth. So your job now is to finish all of the lab and see if you can confirm your genus of these. What do you mean? Right. After you get your genus, then you look in the 7th or 8th edition of Hermes. And you look at the top 3, unless you have bacillus. If you have bacillus, you look at Sirius, Subtilis, and Megatherium. Oh, so you have a gram pot. Yeah, you have 20 bacteria. So look in the top 3.